Good evening. This is a meeting called to order the Community Board Housing and Public Housing Committee to discuss today, Monday, January 30th, to discuss one item that is on the agenda, the discussion on the proposed rent increases for Bedford Gardens development. Just a small introduction. We all know Bedford Gardens is here forever, and everybody knows about it. For those who are not too familiar, it has approximately 640 units, and it's a Michelama, and base some 50% or more, or about 50% have rental assistance, Section 8 rental assistance. Others have only partial assistance, and the rest are people who pay from their pocket. Now, as it is common that as costs go up, these type of developments are coming in front of HPD, and meet with the tenants to discuss and request their support for a rent increase, and that is based basically on the deterioration of the developments, and also the rising costs for maintenance and so on. In order to prove that, they have to submit a statement by a certified public accountant, basically saying, what their cost is, what their income is, and where their shortfall is, and why they need an increase. The increase that we are talking about now is an increase that is a request for 25% rent increase immediately in 23, a second request of in 24 for 25% more, and then in 25 15% increase on top of that. So the Kraus has been asked to join us at the meeting, and so has been HPD, the division of Michelama, to join. Both of them declined at this point. Met with the Tenants Association as required by law. They also attended a public hearing, and therefore they have complied with the requests, and they respectfully declined to meet. HPD likewise said at this point we are at the time that people provide comments. Once we have the comments, once the people have their comments in, then we can afterwards meet with the community board. But at this point, they felt not to participate in this meeting. Let me say I commend our elected officials who basically have been working day and night, and even on Shabbos, the way I understand it, knocking on doors.
We have not been working on Shabbos, Rabbi.
What?
We have not been working on Shabbos. I don't want you to.
Okay.
We respect your wishes.
So anyhow, and our elected officials who have been participating, and other members of the board have been participating in these meetings with the tenants and Kraus management. At this point, while this is this is actually this is well, actually, in the beginning, when when we spoke about having a meeting, some people felt that this is a tenants association. The tenants are those who should be commenting. But the fact is, I was contacted by members of the community board and the housing committee, and Adam Myers has contacted us and said, "Look, this is something that is going to have an effect on tenants living in CB1. So it is something appropriate to be brought in front of the community board. Community board. Plus, the idea is that what happens over here might have some effects on not only on the residents within the development, but in CB1 in general on other types of developments. So the meeting is that's why we call the meeting. And I have to say that being that I will be affected at the outcome of whatever happens. I will have to recuse myself as the voting on anything, but I leave that to our important colleagues and friends here on the community board to decide what actions to be taken. And I would open it now to the councilman. The councilman has been, as I say, in the forefront on this issue to tell the board what has been going on and where we are. Thank you.
I really, Rabbi, I think you said it all and said it all exceptionally well. But I really want to thank you for holding this meeting and for having us tonight. Rabbi Niederman is such a altruistic person that he doesn't like to get involved in anything that could be perceived as benefiting himself. So even though this is a critically important issue in our community, and he's been advising me and others behind the scenes on what steps we should take and how we should push back, he tries to not be at the center of things when it relates to the place where he lives, as he doesn't want it, for appearances. And so, it's just rare to find somebody who's as focused as they are on the well-being of the community, not themselves. And that really is what Rabbi Niederman is all about. So thank you, Rabbi, for convening us tonight. Thank you to all the members of CB1 who are here. I do especially want to thank Adam Myers, not only as a CB1 member, but as somebody who's been actively involved in this fight and lending the legal expertise and muscle of CORE to support tenants at Bedford Gardens. And I see Jonathan from Congressmember Velasquez's office, and thank you for being here with us, Jonathan. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. She told me that I was allowed to share that unfortunately, Evelyn Cruz lost her aunt this morning into an unexpected and tragic way. And she had fully intended to be here today. Even when I spoke to her today, she said she was going to try to come anyway, and I discouraged her. I'm glad that Jonathan's here in her stead. She and her family are in our thoughts and our prayers, during this difficult time. So, just as Rabbi noted, we were notified in December, I believe, that Krause was proposing an extreme, unconscionable rent hike that would take this bastion of deep affordable housing and make it totally unaffordable to most of the working families. It's about half of the working families in the development. And we immediately reached out to HPD, got updates on what was going on, joined the meeting that Krause had with tenants to let them know that they were moving forward on these dramatic extreme rent increases at 25% for each of the next 2 years and another 15%, so about 70% total. And we then set out to begin engaging tenants and making sure that everybody in the 647 unit development was aware of what's going on. And with Adam and Core and other neighbors, we knocked on every door across all of Bedford Gardens, including Rabbi Niederman's, and to educate and inform tenants about the proposed rent increases. And we held a community meeting where Adam and others educated tenants about what was being proposed. We held that over at the Independence Community Center that El Puente operates. We had 75 or so tenants come out to that. And then we organized a press conference and rally before the public hearing and got Kraus and HPD to set up a room at the Independence Community Center so that we could, it was an online hearing, but many of the residents in Bedford Gardens are not technologically savvy or comfortable with online hearings. So we set up a computer where they could just come and testify and make it easy for them to participate. And you heard from resident after resident that this kind of extreme rent increase, to go from $1,000 to $1,800 a month, would make people homeless. That you have folks on fixed incomes, a lot of retirees, a lot of people who are seniors, who have lived in Bedford Gardens for decades. They just could not manage this extreme rent increase. And I, have been really moved by talking to so many tenants who just are, who cannot manage this. And the thing as Rabbi mentioned, 50% of the residents, 52%, I believe, of Bedford Gardens have Section 8 vouchers. So while they would not personally feel the rent increase if it went up by 70 or 80%, when they move out of their apartment, right, the voucher is tied to the family, not to the unit. So when they move out of their apartment, we've lost a deeply affordable housing unit, and it's become much less so. And so we're pushing back. HPD has said to us that they begin their formal review after the public hearing. They're doing that review now. We have a meeting scheduled with Congressmember Velasquez, Assembly Member Gallagher, State Senator Salazar, and representatives from the Comptroller's Office. Hopefully Brad himself will join to meet with Commissioner Carrion from HPD at the end of February, where we will be pushing back and making the case that this is totally unacceptable and asking for HPD to flatly and fully reject this rent increase. We've also, Congressmember Velasquez, and as I'm sure Jonathan can elaborate on, has reached out to HUD, had preliminary conversations with HUD. HUD has agreed to meet with the elected officials as well. The rent increases that Kraus has proposed require the approvals of both HPD and HUD. And so our ability to push back against what Kraus has proposed is at both the local level and the federal level. And so we're going to push and push and push on each of those fronts. The other thing that I just want to note here is that, I assume the game that Kraus is playing is that they're saying, we're going to ask for the sun, the moon, and the stars, this totally egregious, unconscionable, indefensible 70 to 80% rent increase, and we'll try and get HPD to approve 15% or 20% instead, which is still totally indefensible and should not happen. And so, I don't believe that anything above and beyond what the Rent Guidelines Board approves can be considered for a development such as this. Secondly, we're focused on preventing these extreme rent hikes and the long-term affordability of Bedford Gardens. Unfortunately, the Mitchell-Lama program is a time-limited program. And so we're beginning to look at how do we think about the right, Kraus wants the cooperation of HPD and HUD right now in approving some form of rent increase. We need to think about, well, what's a long-term funding agreement from the state that will incentivize Kraus to stay in the Mitchell-Lama program long-term so that we can protect the affordability of this development. As Adam has said before, and many others, we've seen the neighborhood in Williamsburg change so much over the last couple decades. What had been a affordable working class community has become extremely expensive. You know, the thing I hear about most from Jewish families in Williamsburg is that they have kids who are getting married that can't stay in the neighborhood because they can't find a place to live. And I think I hear from Latino families is how hard it is to hold on as rents have gone up and up and up. We've lost 15,000 Latino residents from Community Board 1 in the last 15 years, right? That is the result of extreme displacement and gentrification. There is no greater treasurer than our deeply affordable housing. And Bedford Gardens, basically, it's a little complicated, but you would, you know, for those sophisticated people on the Community Board 1 Housing and Public Housing Committee, you all understand that it would be classified as about a 40% AMI development. So a deeply affordable housing development. There's various levels that people pay more or less, but overall, it is a deeply, deeply, deeply affordable development. And we will lose that if Krause gets its way. And so that cannot happen. And we are going to organize and push, and we, you know, humbly ask for the strong support of Community Board 1 in formally joining this fight to hold on to the affordable housing that we need so badly in our community. So I'm happy to take any questions, or for others who are much more knowledgeable and eloquent than me to jump in. But I just want to thank you for the opportunity to say a few words and express our commitment on this issue. It could not be more important.
Thank you very much. I see a hand up.
Yes, thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, council member. I think you're all right. The rent increase, especially with the hike in the food prices, everything went up. A senior citizen who lives on just Social Security will not be able even to pay rent. Right now, if you go around and ask the seniors, they have problems paying the grocery bills. So the question what I have, what a lot of residents talk in town is, the question is if Krause is the right management to manage Bedford Gardens. Why they wait so long till we have so much things to repair? The violations in Krause management is out of the roof. I know for a fact NYCHA is not approving no new Section 8 vouchers in Krause management in Bedford Gardens because the violations. The question is if this is the right management, know how to manage and fix the development. And this is for the elected officials. If we can work with HUD to bring in a similar program like RED, like we have in other NYCHA developments to Bedford Gardens. That means they should get more funded. They should have resources for rehab to cure all the violations, plus to have money, and that the rent should stay the same.
All great questions, and thank you, Mr. Gross, for your words and your leadership. We have serious questions and concerns about Krause, and I think there have been ongoing that are not new. They've been serious. There have been serious concerns about Krause going back for decades, back to the 80s and the 90s. We have a borough president in Brooklyn who grew up in Krause housing, and I see Bruno is on here. Antonio is a product of Krause, and I think most of Krause's holdings in our area are in Councilmember Gutierrez's district in the South Side. But I think that there are real questions when I talk to the residents at Bedford Gardens about the security, the maintenance, the state of disrepair in the development. And look, there is a need for capital investment. It is not the rent increases that they propose would far, far, far outpace the actual capital needs, right? So these rent increases are indefensible by any accounting measure or any review of their books. But you're right that we should be focused on a long-term funding agreement from the city and the state and the federal government to keep the development deeply affordable that does not impose rent increases on the residents. And Krause owns this property. Chair Fuller of CB1 is, one of the, citywide leaders in Mitchell-Lama organizing and advocacy for residents in Mitchell-Lama developments. this is one of the few rental developments in the Mitchell Lama program. It's mostly co-ops, right? And so this is a little bit different. Kraus owns the development, so I don't know what our legal authority would be to replace them. I imagine there could be levers where we could incentivize them to sell, but I think that the focus is on how do we improve the operations, how do we improve the conditions, how do we provide the right funding that from the government to address the conditions without increasing rents. So go ahead.
It's possible we should try to get them like similar like a RED program.
We should consider everything that could make a difference. You know, the RAD program, as you know better than anybody, is been distinctly developed in relation to public housing. So there's a whole different set of public policies that would be have to be considered for Mitchell Lama. But look, you know, as I'm thinking out loud, it's a provocative question that you're raising and asking. You know, they are the owner. They don't necessarily need to be the property manager. So perhaps it's, you know, government agencies should be engaging Kraus about subcontracting property management to improve conditions if we don't have confidence in their ability to manage the development appropriately. But you know, I think that that's something that we need residents to give us guidance and input on to determine what are the priorities that we want to fight for. What I know is that we have to stop the rent increases and that we need to keep the developments affordable, not just this year, but in perpetuity. Those are the big picture priorities for me. If there are other things that we should be incorporating into our, you know, top goals, then I'm all ears.
Is Mitchell Lama gonna
Mr. Gross, with all due respect, yes, there are so many people, and you asked one very wonderful questions. If you can please yield to the gentleman, I don't know who, but somebody who will raise the hand, and tell us what their experience is, what they believe, and what they suggest which should be our next steps. Do we have a volunteer? Adam?
I'm sorry. The question was a volunteer just to speak next.
It's a volunteer to speak next.
Yeah. I can talk
You
next. So yeah.
already.
I mean you know, I think Rabbi Niederman and Councilmember Ressler, you guys covered most of what I think this committee needs to know about the background here, namely that this is an exorbitant increase that would I think you know, sometimes we speak a little cavalierly about exactly how much displacement is going to result, but this is one of those relatively few situations where I feel like I could say with absolute confidence, we're talking about hundreds of families being forced out if this proposal actually goes through. And that would have a significant effect on the composition of our communities. And so if the question is like, what can we as a committee do about this? You know, community boards are advisory, but I think that they are bodies that the city has an obligation to listen seriously to. And so I think if we as a committee wanted to get involved, what we would probably want to do is try to frame a resolution expressing our recommendations as to whether this proposal should be approved or denied or modified or whatever. We should recommend that on to the community board as a whole with the hope that that full board put out a resolution, you know, I would say condemning in the most forceful terms possible the idea of approving this rent increase. I'm not sure if that was exactly the question, but I think that is where I could see this possibly going.
Thank you. I have another volunteer.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bicho. I'm born and raised in Williamsburg, and I'm here just because I've decided to become more involved in my community. And uh, to respond to the person who just spoke, it is true that community boards have very limited capacity in doing something about this issue, and that writing a resolution sounds great and all, but it's not lost on me the fact that earlier in the beginning of the meeting it was mentioned that there aren't any tenants from Bedford Gardens in this current meeting, and the change makers actually come from the tenants. And as a community board, and I'm not trying to sound punitive or anything, but as a community board, it's disappointing that there's no tenants from Bedford Gardens in the meeting right now.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want you to know that the person chairing the meeting is a tenant at Bedford Gardens.
Right, I understand that, but he's also part. You're also part of the community board as well, right? Am I right, David?
Yes.
So it needs to be something that has more representation than just somebody who is already on the community board. Does the Bedford Gardens already have a tenant association?
Yes, they do.
Okay. I'm just raising my
Yeah, they
like
unfortunately they declined attending the meeting tonight. They were invited. It's a small group, but we've been actively working with many dozens of tenants. They're very
Right.
much engaged in this fight. I promise you.
right. I understand that. I'm just like wanting to express my grievances because this is really disappointing. You know, like the fact that this greedy landlord wants to raise rents at such a crazy rate, like sets a precedent if this does happen for other buildings in the neighborhood to have those rents increased as well, because they lead by example in that sense. And it's just a hard thing to like hear, like as a Puerto Rican in the community, that this isn't that is possible. And I hope that something can be done about this.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I agree wholeheartedly that to the extent that the community board gets involved in this issue, we've got a little to do so sort of in active engagement with the tenant association so that we're not overstepping, and so that ultimately we are really fulfilling what I think is all of our goal here, which is to represent, to speak on behalf of folks that don't have the privilege of sort of occupying the same position that we do. I think you're absolutely right. What we do here should not be an isolated thing. It needs to come from the tenants, no question.
Thank you. Julie, you had your hands up before, yes? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I did.
1 second.
I did have my hand up, but Adam stated basically what I said. You know, we're here for the community, and yes, it should be community involvement. And I'm sorry they declined not to be here, where they can give us more input in the way to go. And which I do believe we are here to help them. And I'm sure whatever we say tonight or whatever we agree upon tonight will get back to them, and they will come to a consensus of how they feel. I'm sorry for the increase, but reading his letter also, he's making a statement to the government, state, or to whoever. They haven't had an increase in 8 years. I'm a parent of 2 African-American young men who can't even afford to get an apartment. They're having real issues, and they're over 40 living with their mama because they can't get nowhere to live here in Williamsburg. This is very unfortunate and very heartbreaking. Oh, I'm not going to cry. I'm getting at that age where I cry a lot. And I just pray it doesn't happen, because I too am a senior and it's tough to pay the rent. And I live in NYCHA. It is so hard. And we as a board, we're here for the community. To the young man that was speaking. And once again, I'm sorry everyone declined to be here. They should be here to speak out about how they feel, what they can give us ideas on what they want, how they want it. Because I don't know if this is a negative thing, but I do believe he's going to get his increase. Even if he doesn't get the top that he's asking for, it's going to dwindle down. He's going to get his increase. Because I just watched the news and see how the rent just keeps going up, going up, going up. It's just crazy. But we as a community, we're here to fight for our residents. We're here to fight for Community Board 1 and Williamsburg, Greenpoint. We're here, young man. We're here. And we hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are all having a great start to your new year. I just want to thank the Housing Committee and Rabbi Niederman for inviting us to speak tonight. As the council member stated before, Evelyn Cruz could not be here tonight due to a loss in her family earlier today. So I am here on behalf of the Congresswoman. The Congresswoman would like to thank the councilman, Ressler, and Assembly Member Gallagher, and the Community Board for their leadership on this matter. For the record, in October 2022, Cross Management announced to the tenants their intent to submit an application to HUD to raise the rents by 25% this year, an additional 25% next year, and 15% in 2025, which is an aggressive increase of 80% for these tenants. And the Congresswoman has publicly denounced this. Last Friday, our office actually had a meeting with HUD to discuss this matter, and HUD informed us that about half of the tenants receive Section 8 subsidies and would not be affected by the proposed rental increases. While this is true, we don't know what the future holds if there's a change of income for these Section 8, these tenants who have Section 8. The other half of the tenants are subject to these potential rent hikes. The representative from HUD does not believe that HPD will grant these rent increases. And the goal is to get to an accurate and reasonable rental increase. A rental increase is inevitable, but not the exaggerated amount of 80% in 3 years. That's just too much. And the Congresswoman has expressed her concerns that these proposed rent increases are outrageous. So along with other elected officials, she's calling for an in-depth investigation to these proposed rental increases. Longtime tenants who have lived there all their lives, they raised their families, their children, this is their neighborhood. They do not have faith in this proposal. And they do not have faith in the physical needs assessment submitted by Cross Management because of Cross's past history of inflated billing amongst its subsidiary entities. This is why, again, the Congresswoman has compelled HUD to conduct an in-depth review of this matter. The Congresswoman has also expressed her concerns to the HPD commissioner, and she was present at the hearing that HPD put on. In addition to the legislators, the nonprofit organization Communities Resist is also working with the residents. We're all working to protect and preserve the much needed affordable housing here in Williamsburg. And we will continue to monitor the situation at Bedford Gardens and advocate for a more equitable solution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, and give our best to the Congresswoman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Bruno?
That was great.
Bruno, may I call on you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rabbi Niederman, for the opportunity.
Yes.
So yeah, I would here representing Borough President Reynoso. We've been talking about this issue pretty in depth over the last week, both at our executive level and with the BP directly. So wanted to say, like, as people saw at the press conference last time, the Borough President deep. I can't do justice to the energy and the emotion he gave his remarks that day. But I just want to make it clear to everyone that that justice and security for the tenants is our utmost concern. Just speaking to my colleagues in government here, we'd like to be looped in on further conversations with agencies to be on the same page and to see if there are any levers or any pressure we can apply as well. So yeah, we're looking forward to hear what's going on with the proposal for possibly finding a agreement from the state or seeing or hearing details on an investigation from HUD or HPD. Yeah, we just want to get caught up to speed with that. So yes, just let us know if there's a coalition meeting, if there's a task force on that. Please let me know and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We'll make sure that that you're personally looped, Bruno. Thank you so much.
Janice?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna ask a
You-
quick
you-
question. Do we have a quorum at this point?
I have no idea. I'm here. I'm one of your votes. And
You have 9 members, but that is including the Rabanini.
Okay, I will not vote, but we are 9 members. So it's a quorum.
yes. Good. I was just going to add a comment while you're a lull here is that it would be helpful if the speakers could not just speak about affordable housing. Poor people know that affordable does not mean them. So it's time to change the language that it's low income or poor people and affordable, because affordable is a negative word in about every public housing complex I know in the city. And people go there and they boo, because they know it's not them. So can we start moving our language to fit the situation, that there really is an effort to deny poor people housing, and that we don't clearly have a plan for it that is acceptable yet for our whole neighborhood? RAD is not it, and other plans that have come out are not it, and that should be on another agenda for another meeting. But I just want to put that in there, that we have to keep that in mind, that we still do not have a plan, an acceptable plan for poor people in public housing in the city.
Thank you very much, Janice. And as you said yourself, that is for a separate meeting.
That's right.
Thank you.
Or maybe it underscores the point that we need to preserve the housing we've got that's currently meeting that need.
Yes. Okay.
That would be good, but we keep trying to get rid of it.
That is not going to happen under your watch. Forget about it, Janice.
Can I make a motion on the floor? We should have a resolution. We are against, the community board committee is against the proposed Kraus management rent increase.
I second it.
Okay.
We
What's-
have to take our vote.
Somebody's got to say all in favor.
Is everybody in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Clap
Against?
those hands.
And we need a
Against?
voice vote. Just asking.
Is that a vote or is that you want to say something?
No, I said, do we need a voice vote? So we know which members are voting. First of all, I can't see half these people on here, so I don't know who's who.
Yeah, I
And
don't
when
know
they're
why.
talking, I have to look around to see who's talking.
Okay.
Rabbi Needleman,
Yes.
Maria Vieira,
Yes, please. I am recused of a vote on this.
Okay, so you're accused.
Maria Vieira, Iris
She's-
Carrera, Stephanie Cuevas, Aaron Drinkwater, Julia Amanda Foster,
Yes,
Cristo Garcia,
Yes.
Joel Goldstein,
Yes.
Joel Gross,
Yes.
Robert Jeffrey, Joe Lando, Ali,
Yes.
Adam Myers,
Yes.
Janice Peterson,
Yes.
Brittner, Ronnie Brittner. Jagatsani, and I'm
Yes.
sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'm so sorry. Yes? Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How about that dog?
We have a yes
Yeah.
and one recluso.
So,
Motion passed.
Hog votes yes also, for whatever that's worth.
That's worth a lot. You
yeah,
can trust dogs. The motion
okay.
carries.
Okay, so this concludes the agenda. Anything else? And we used to have a chair who used to say of blessed memory, new business, old business, new business, monkey business.
Well,
do we
for
have
monkey
a
business,
do we have a motion?
I just
to
want to make
adjourn?
sure we're going to have the discussion next time on RAD and begin to look at an evaluation of RAD, Rabbi, that's
Okay,
on the
so
agenda.
why don't you propose? I said that a long time ago. Propose an
know.
agenda. We'll take it from there. But
And
let's.
you know, I was in the hospital, Rabbi.
Oh,
I've been in there
Hashem
for
should
a
help.
number of weeks. Yeah.
Hashem should help you. We need you here. I
Yeah,
told
you
you.
didn't go. I went
Want to be sued?
zip
Please
lining.
watch.
Rabbi, you gonna put this letter together?
No, not me. Somebody who can write from left to right.
If the committee would like, I'd be happy to draft something up
We'd
to.
love to have you, Adam. You're appropriate.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So send around the draft.
Right.
I'll do that this week.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Myers.
And
So I want to second the motion to adjourn the meeting.
I just am going to stick in that you probably don't all know about a wonderful woman by the name of Maria Fava who fought for years for Grec and Greenpoint Hospital and housing in the neighborhood. Just died. Her funeral is tonight. You may not know her, but she's a big leader of neighborhood women, and I just want to bring her name out. That's all.
Thank you, Jan.
you.
thank
I'm
you.
sorry for your loss, Jan.
May she rest in
That's a big
peace.
one. She's 92, however, but
God bless her. And she sleep in paradise.
kind of neighbors we need.
So did we
Good
adjourn?
night.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yes.
Thank you all.
I want
Thank
that
you. Have a
dog,
wonderful
Adam.
Everybody.
Everybody owes me a thank you for adjourning the meeting. I could have held you another 2 hours.
No.
I'm just kidding for next
Are
time.
you trying to say I'm going to speak for 2 hours now that I'm on? No.
See, you got Jan on there. She'll speak for 2 hours. We
No,
out.
I'm not.
Bye.
I'm going to the funeral. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody.
Have a wonderful
Bye.
night.
Thank you.